Feeling overwhelmed by shipping complexities and industry jargon? ProShip ParcelCast Unwined is here to help. Join us as we unwind with industry experts, break down complex topics, and make shipping enjoyable with a cocktail in hand. Learn about the latest trends in technology, navigate carrier changes, and gain valuable insights from the pros. ProShip ParcelCast Unwind. It's your one-stop shop for simplifying logistics, one sip at a time. Brought to you by ProShip, the last shipping software you'll ever need. Now, ready to help you ship smarter, not harder, here's your host, Jerry Dixon.
Welcome everyone to today's ProShip ParcelCast Unwind, the speed of trust, how logistics wins or loses customers. Are you curious about the future of e-commerce and how logistics will shape that future? Then you've come to the right place. Today, we'll be diving deep into this fascinating topic with two industry experts, Ninad Acharya and Justin Kramer. Justin, can you introduce yourself?
Sure, Justin Kramer. For those who don't know me, I'm one of the technical co-founders of ProShip. I've been in the small parcel shipping software business for over 20 years. In the process, I've had the pleasure of being able to design systems that'll ship more than 3 million packages a day and design other systems that cross 4 continents.
And Ninad.
Oh yeah, Ninad Acharya, one of the co-founders and CEO here at Fulfillment IQ. Background very much on the technical and product side of supply chain, very heavily on distribution systems design, implementation, tier 1 solutions like Manhattan Associates, as well as working with tier 2 solutions out in the market. Been through the gamut, run a pretty nice company that we get to do some really interesting things out in the market all the time. So really excited to talk about it. And multi-carrier supply chain space, definitely not as much as Justin or anyone else at ProShip on the technical side, but spent about 10 years implementing, looking at things and building things ground up.
Before we discuss the intricate world of logistics, I just want to give a shout out to Adam Klein. I think these guys got your message, Adam, and they're both wearing Manhattan shirts. So good job, guys. Little plug for Manhattan. Also, we want to showcase the drink. This is a refreshing drink to enjoy while we continue this insightful conversation. Today, we're featuring the Precisely Promised. It's a vodka soda. So just like the well-functioning supply chain, this drink is all about finding the perfect balance that suits you. The ingredients are vodka, soda, and garnish. And the connection to the topic is a good vodka soda is all about balance and precision. The right amount of vodka, perfectly chilled soda, and a touch of citrus for a refreshing twist. Similarly, a successful supply chain relies on precise coordination and efficient delivery, much like the balanced flavors in this drink. So thank you for joining me, gentlemen. Cheers.
Cheers to that.
I use pink grapefruit bubbly in mine. What did you guys use?
I have the blackberry bubbly.
Nice. Do you have a bubbly, Justin?
No, I actually use club soda and no citrus, which is the perfect balance for me.
For you, that's right. Okay, let's get started. Today, we're talking about the future of logistics and e-commerce. According to Statista, the global e-commerce market size is projected to reach 5.4 trillion in 2025. 5.4 trillion US dollars. According to that information as well, e-commerce is shaping global retail. The number of digital buyers is anticipated to hit 3.11 billion by 2025. That's just 6 months away. Ninad, why don't you kick us off and tell us a bit about your perspective on this industry?
I mean, as far as statistics are concerned, right, I only look at my own career journey and just look back and think about how much have things evolved, right? Like, so first of all, you look back at 2007-8 timeframe, e-commerce and distribution networks, particularly in the supply chain side of the universe, for most large retailers, it was just this cool little, cute little thing on the side, right? Like it was never kind of the primary thing until, and it wasn't too long after that, about 5 years later, 2012, everyone was building dedicated warehouses and facilities. You saw evolution of commerce, and you start seeing all of this, like Amazon starting to make the move within the space with the customer expectations and how customer behavior was getting shaped within the space. And the next thing you know, while all of that is expanding, you get the giants like Shopify stepping in and saying, no, I'm going to give these individual brands the power. So e-commerce, from a meteoric rise perspective, it's only been about 12, 14 years that we have seen all of this kind of rise happen in the North American market, at least. And what I have to say is the last 5 years specifically feel like a lifetime as far as shippers are concerned. Um, the the maturity curve in 2018-19 that everyone was going through, competing with brands and Amazon from a retailer's perspective, and all of a sudden, hitting pandemic, don't know what's going to happen. Next thing you know is like e-commerce is like the center of supply chain, multi-carrier shipping, pressures coming in from volumes perspective, everyone's having a party from at least within the industry itself. The next thing you know is everyone starts building supply chain networks as if like this party was going to continue, right? Like it's 1999. And next thing you know is like that's not the reality in 22 and 23. And now there is the period of resiliency and a comeback, and you are kind of seeing only the mature and the good ones, right? Where you can truly figure out your supply chain because the customer acquisition pressures on the commerce side have started increasing. Only the mature ones are now starting to be able to compete in a true sense on the e-commerce side, and it's a beautiful journey. Like if you were to like watch it from a 50,000 feet level, it's beautiful. But I think this maturity now brings, we need to break down some of these walls that exist in the industry between commerce and logistics. I think that's kind of the next maturity curve with some of the movement from an AI perspective or customer expectation perspective. I think that's where some of the challenges lie. Again, going back to the resiliency side of the universe. So it's a very interesting time to be in this space, specifically multi-carrier.
Justin, you've talked about breaking down silos in the past. What kind of approach is needed when it comes to breaking down silos between e-commerce and logistics?
In my opinion, it requires leadership. It requires buy-in by the whole company, but especially leadership, because leadership can very quickly undo what the people are just trying to do their jobs are. They can easily go, that's not important right now, go and do this. Okay. And so as whether you're the CEO, whether you're the head of development, whether you are a marketing manager, whoever it is, it's very easy for you to accidentally derail this by pushing away the importance of that communication. But the advantage of doing it right, I think, is the most important thing. And I think that's what leadership needs to keep in mind so that they don't accidentally override the process of taking down the silos, and that they actually reinforce the process with their teammates by actually saying, normally we would circle the wagon and we would focus on this problem, but no, let's share this problem with the other teams and see if they can help us with it. Who knows? Maybe as we're trying to figure out how to do customer retention, how to do what the next discount should be, something of that nature. Maybe those logistics guys, or maybe that IT team, they might have a suggestion to throw in there, or a way to do it with the least amount of man hours so that they can get it deployed as quickly as possible. So leadership is a lot of what I have to say here, is having seen very siloed companies, having seen very open companies, it all starts with the leadership and how they enforce it and how they prevent from sidetracking it.
There's more supply chain leadership now than ever. 10, 15, 20 years ago, there wasn't a whole lot of vice president of supply chain. Now there is.
Yeah.
So maybe it's about improving that customer experience, right, Nanad?
Absolutely. I think, you know, not just vice presidents, right? Like you're starting to see a lot of chief supply chain officers and a lot of organizations, right? It's so I'll say, you know, something my one of my previous bosses used to say is IT needs to be at the, because I used to work for IT, and it's like IT needs to be at the table and not on the menu. And I think it's the same thing that's applicable is from a supply chain perspective or logistics specifically within supply chain, because there is different parts of supply chain, right? Like procurement might be at the table, but logistics might not. And I think it's really critical to ensure that logistics truly sits at the table, and specifically in a smaller organization, because you are seeing this movement of having chief supply chain officers in the larger organizations. You are not seeing that still in the brand centric space. You have manager of supply chain or manager of distribution, someone that's managing the 3PL relationships. That's where you need to start saying, okay, I don't care about the titles, but whoever that individual happens to be needs to be at the table. And when I say the table, it's critical business decisions, but also specifically, I'll speak to e-commerce, is at the table when digital and commerce side of your business, they do a God's work, right? Customer acquisition, product sourcing, how is the product going to be marketed, etc. Right? And what the digital experience happens to be. See, at that point, in most places that I visit even today, is there is this silo, this breakdown of saying commerce will decide this is the experience, this is the promise I'm going to make as an example to the customer, and logistics. Here you go, after whatever I've committed at checkout, here you go, I'm gonna chuck it over on the other side and you got to take care of it. And I think that's the barrier that needs to get broken down to say, no, let's not do that. Let's work with logistics to try and figure out the best way to give the best experience to the customer. That could even go one step further. Rather than saying, let's just make this promise, we can help you do better A/B testing on validation, etc. Right? So um, that's the kind of silo that needs to get broken down. And I think more than the titles, it's a role, it's a team that needs to be understood better and brought into the fold of the entire execution of the demand chain.
And I think that we, as we talked, as we was prepared to do this podcast, one of the things that was brought up, not by you, and I really want to bring it in early in this conversation, is Amazon. Is the way that process now appears to customers at Amazon, and I noticed the precursors of that, about 8 years ago when I was in the UK, where they have a different way of having customer experience, right? Specifically, where they're used to getting things same day. Next day is the fallback, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same day is more the standard, is more the premium experience, if you will. And being able to understand what you can get in Scotland versus what you can get over in Wales, same day versus next day was an important part of the experience. And you and I were talking and reminiscing about a lot of different things where we might decide what we want today versus some of the others. Did you want to dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think about like it or don't like it, right? Like it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, Amazon shapes consumer expectations, specifically in the general merchandising space. And I think there is a delineation where something is so important that you might need that product, and the only way you can buy it. I was this morning, I was looking at a monitor riser, right? And it's available from this brand, and the only way I can get it is through their website. So their shipping choices, right, have a level of impact. But when it comes to anything that's available on Amazon, it's comparable to Amazon as an example, and that happens to be, and that's why it represents almost or greater than 50% of the e-commerce volume in the North American space right now. They shape behavior. They shape behavior by saying, oh, when you subscribe to my Prime badge, you are going to get a certain way of shipping. And when I make that promise, I'm going to stay true to that promise and have an SLA that's truly committed, right? Like, so that's number one. If you look back at the history of that type of shaping the behavior, they shape the behavior to say, if you think about it, all the returns, they never used to be free, then they became free, or there was like a label inside the box, then it became more digitized returns, and you started seeing the pattern kind of shift. Now Amazon's starting to move towards, hey, certain types of returns, and depending on who you are, I'm actually going to charge you for a return because everyone figured out there is actually nothing called free. So they are starting to shape behavior. So Amazon's behavior and pattern is what people now start to expect of how an e-commerce experience needs to be to a certain degree. And I think that's where, and you know, you spoke about Europe, or you spoke about UK and how it's behaving. If you go to even China, right, the expectation when they do the Singles Day out there, and again, world's largest sale happening on a given day, right? Alibaba and JD and these guys are actually delivering majority of the products within a 24-hour window. Now, they have the demographics to be able to support that, where they have clustering of population in a single chain. North America is a little bit of a different market. So it's a try and test and prove, right? So where you can provide certain products in the same day market versus certain you can't. And if you were to now break it down, if you are looking for toilet paper rolls, yeah, you need it same day. Do you really need certain other things same day? And that's why Amazon's been doing so much experimentation. But I think the most important thing to take away from this is the trust. When you make a commitment, I, as a buyer, don't care if you are going to tell me it's going to be here on Friday. No, instead, it's going to be here in 2 days, or it's going to be here in 3 days, or today. I'm delighted by today, but the fact is, trust is more important. So if I wanted something, and I'm okay with you saying it's going to be 3 days, then you better make it in 3 days. But that can't be an experience that is in the checkout. That has to be an experience on the product information display page. I think that is one of the biggest thing that everyone needs to try and achieve today is don't make the promise at checkout. Use the algorithms to be able to make that determination while that user happens to be at the product information display page to say, Jerry, I know who you are. I
Mhm.
know how important of a buyer you happen to be. I know what you are looking at. I know where the inventory exists in real time. I know everything else that sits in your cart right now to be able to shape that demand and go, when can I get this to you and make that promise? So, Jerry, if you order this widget in the next 2 hours, I'll make sure that it's available to you day after tomorrow by 5 p.m. That's the promise that we are talking about. And I think Amazon's actually done a phenomenal job at it. And that's because commerce, technology, and logistics work hand in hand to actually make that happen. When we start thinking about it more from an end-tier perspective, it does not. That's the problem.
So
Yeah.
you need to have the right software stack again, right, Justin?
Yeah, I do want to go back to, and I want to reiterate, that sounds like some pretty broken down silos. There's a lot of, it's not a, this is what we promised in marketing, logistics, it's your problem now. But also, to Jerry's point, there is a lot of communication that has to happen really fast there. We can't have, the legacy of data flowing one way. Orders can't start in the e-commerce suite and just data flows down to execution. We actually have to call those execution suites, and we have to say, okay, for example, one of the best things to put in here, in my opinion, is an order management system of some type, something that knows where all the inventory is, something that can determine, am I going to split this order? Am I going to single source this order? And if so, what are the costs and what are the delivery impacts? Well, where are you going to get that from? You're going to reach out to the shipping software and go, okay, if I ship this from Nevada and this from Georgia, what are my costs going to be? What if I ship it all from Texas instead, right? So that I can actually get these what ifs and inform my customer, and maybe Maybe they don't want everything tomorrow, okay? Maybe I actually want it the day after tomorrow because, well, I'm a hybrid worker. So I'm going to go in the office tomorrow. Please don't leave it on my doorstep. It won't be there when I get home. That promise, as you mentioned, is extremely important. And as we came out of the pandemic, we saw that was one of the most important things to customers. We saw for the first time going away from faster, freer to give me, like you said, trust. Give me a promise and stick to it.
Yeah. And one really interesting aspect is also sustainability, right? The amount of people that want to make the green choice, right? Like maybe I'm just working from home, like most of the times as I do. And maybe I want to make a choice that actually consolidates my boxes to be able to bring it together, or use a carrier that has an EV fleet that actually delivers the product to me, right? As an example. So being able to provide that as a feedback loop to the customer to say, hey, here's your choice. I can have it to you in 2 days, but when I get to checkout, give me all these other options to be able to do the manipulation the way I want to be able to experience the entire flow. Um, super cool point there, Justin.
You just pointed something out to me that do you know that one of the major carriers in the U.S. has had carbon neutral, had the ability to offset all their carbon since 2005?
Wow.
I'm going to
No,
tell
I
you
was not
the
aware.
number of marketing managers, the number of e-commerce managers that know that, it probably is one hand, right?
Yeah.
Why? Because it's been siloed in logistics. Logistics knows about it. They
Yeah.
know you can just check one box. It is going to increase the shipping costs, right? But as you said, if that's very important to a customer, giving them that option may be exactly what's necessary to keep them coming back to you.
You know, very interestingly, the Google Maps has that option now, right? Where it's showing you all the routes when you're going from point A to point B. It will show you the the sustainable path. Sometimes it's longer in distance, and I'll still make that choices because yes, it's longer. It's gonna put more miles on my car, but it's actually better for my car because I'm driving highway or I'm going at a speed that's actually economical for the car, and B, it's actually saving me gas as well at the same time. And it's the same thing that's applicable here. Is to say, if you don't need it, right? Or if there is an option that's giving you the offset, then you should be leaning into that. And I think that's it. All boils down to the promises that you make and staying true to that promise. And when that promise is not made, what are you going to do about it, right? Like so, instead of making a promise and just chucking it on the other side, be like, deal with it, which is kind of the environment I came from. Is I've dealt with most of the large retailers actually addressed it that way, is like, make the promise, here you go. And you brought up an OMS as an example. The problem with the OMSs and the way they are structured is, again, that n-tier architecture, right? Like, so you got commerce, you take orders, you show your products, you make some sort of promise of what shipping it's going to be. It drops it down to an OMS that goes, okay, I made this promise. How do I fulfill this based on my network, based on a bunch of rules? And then it's going to either split orders or do something, and then eventually go to the distribution. And distribution's like, oh, this promise has been made. Now prioritize within everything that you have the best way you're going to do it. The Amazon way, or the ideal way to do it, is do all of those second and third step of OMS and WMS, what they are going to end up doing, and carrier choices at the same time while the customer's out there. And that's possible today. Compute is cheaper, AI is available. The amount of stuff you can do is making a soft call to your OMS. So when you're picking an OMS, pick one that can actually do routing without routing, or a TMS or a multi-carrier system that can do routing without actually routing, right? And it's actually making these calls to make the right determination at the right place, right time. And the same thing's applicable on the commerce side. It's as simple as that. I know it's oversimplifying, but that's all that's needed to actually solve for it.
Nanad, you're so right. It is not 2010 anymore. I mean, compute still costs, right? But whether you're using a stateless model where you can just ask a bunch of questions, or whether you are starting to pre-build that sourcing solution for a given shopping cart, doing it real time with the customer can really pull loyalty. The funny thing is, we do have a customer that does that a lot. The funny thing is that this retailer is a B2B retailer. So this isn't something that, I mean, unless you're a very high-end equipment buyer, right? As an individual, but no, in this case, this company sells networking gear and computers and switches and all of these things where if you have one failing, knowing when you're going to get the replacement is absolutely critical. Okay, and they have been doing this since before 2010. So if a B2B company can do it, retailers, brands with direct consumer, you can do it as well.
Completely agreed.
Well, Nanad, you mentioned AI a little bit ago, and that's everybody's favorite term these days. How does AI play into logistics, e-commerce, the promise engine, the promise economy? How does that?
Absolutely. I think, for the first thing I want to clarify, and I'm going to assume everyone knows what I'm talking about, but I'm still going to reiterate, right? AI is multidisciplinary, first of all, to start with, right? There is various different aspects of like machine learning capabilities, which is taking data and making it learn certain things from the data itself, and then basically creating new algorithms that are self-generating. That's one. There is computer vision that's looking at things and then figuring out, right, like what it's looking at and then deciphering things. There is generative AI. A lot of people still think about generative AI, and up until this point, I can tell you, like, Gen AI is like starting to get in logistics, but the most important part, I think, in all of this is machine learning. It's having good consolidated data for what you're doing, right? Like, so for you to be able to do promise engine, you need to understand where's your inventory, what's the capacity, what's the past trending, what do you expect in the future, what's the weather conditions, what's all of these aspects, right? Then you have to take into consideration the data around multi-carrier, like what are my contracts with these carriers, what is the best way to ship a certain way, right? Like what is the product dimension, what box am I going to end up picking, right? Like you take that algorithm in general, you add that on top, who's the consumer? Well, is it Jerry, who is someone that shops 3 times a month with me, or is it someone else that's actually doing it once every 6 months, or it's a brand new customer versus, oh, I know this person is a serial offender on the amount of returns that are generated through this individual, right? You take all of that information and be able to, so first, that's data aggregation, taking that and then building on top of that basic models to be able to respond back and saying, how am I going to approach a given customer and their individualized experience? Because what AI is doing now is it's moving away from metadata, right? Like the Facebook-esque experience of like saying, oh, you are an individual that is between the age of 35 and 45, that is of a certain ethnicity, that lives in the Greater Toronto area, and that's it. Now it's going down to you are Ninad Acharya or you are Jerry Dixon, right? Like, and it starts now patterning towards you to say, how do I win you? But for you to get there, it's a long journey. I do not want to minimize it, but even that long journey has to start today. And I think
Yeah.
machine learning, working with your data, bringing your data together, and then incrementing, having a resource within the organization that is responsible for data science or ML ops, right? That is looking at these aspects and helping you improve. I think that is one of the most important things companies can do today, because if you don't do today and you wake up 2 years from now, it's gonna take a long time for you to be able to then compete with the ones that are already investing at this time. So in the promise economy, in the promise engine, if you don't have it, partner with good vendors, bring in good capabilities, so software vendors, SIs, and internal resourcing to be able to understand how to do this. And it's not just a technology thing. It has to go beyond. It has to be logistics, commerce, and technology coming together with the with the blessings of the leadership to say data is important, machine learning step one, right? Or data step one, machine learning, and then let's get to more predictive, more prescriptive A/B testing around how we are going to do this and bringing logistics to the table. That's the most important thing, at least I can call out.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. The where AI is going to take us is amazing. But I'd also like to say that AI is not like Windex in My Big Fat Greek Wedding. You can't just spray it on everything and expect it to work, right? When do you use AI? And one of the things that I tell anybody that asks me that question is AI is for where statistics should take over, where there is more than one potential correct answer, and that correct answer might change. You don't use AI where you can calculate a correct answer in a reasonable amount of time. So for example, going to my sphere of influence, shipping costs. You don't need AI for shipping costs. You know what the fuel surcharge is. You know the weight, the rate card, all that. That could be calculated. And that could be calculated sub-seconds. Okay. What we may not know in a warehouse is if we have these 3 workers and we just received a 48-foot trailer of items to put away, what the best put away plan is, what the best pick plan is for the 4,000 orders that just dropped, right? These are all things where variables can change it. These are all things where really what we're trying to do is we are trying to make the most educated guess we can. And if we were to go back to the old Scooby-Doo days, where the gang actually pulls the mask off of AI, what are we going to see at the bottom of it? We're going to see statistics, right? So that's why, as Nanad said, you need that great data. But it's not just statistics alone, because you need to train that model. Otherwise, you're not going to get the uniqueness necessary for your situation now. Okay, and I think that's another nice thing about AI is AI, as long as it continues to be fed good data, the answer will change to get more accurate over time. And Nanad, I think that's one of the things that you were alluding to, where now when I go on to some of my favorite shopping websites, their AI is actually remembering what I do, not just a 50-year-old male that lives in the Midwest, blah, 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 which is what the early statistics were doing. But now it's, okay, well, we know he's probably going to be like this, but let's look at that with what he has done, what he has ordered. What is the next series of books that he's going to buy next on that website, and let's present it to him because he's most likely to use those. And so again, it's about applying the right tool at the right place, in my opinion.
I just want to call out to that point you made. I don't know if people noticed, but like 15 years ago, right? Or 10, 15 years ago, my credit cards, there was a lot of fraud that would happen. I'm talking about 1 or 2 fraud a year where I would be on the call. They would call me, be like, oh, this seems like suspect. What happened? Stop the card, get a new card. I don't think that's happened to me in the last 5 to 6 years at this point. And one of the things that people you didn't notice is the banks got together and these financial institutions behind the scenes and starting to profile behaviors and shifts, and they are stopping things before they are happening. See, on the commerce side, that same experience is starting to emerge at this point. The amount of fraud that's happening, the amount of challenges with authenticity fraud specifically that's actually happening, the amount of companies that are coming up that are shaping this individual shopping profile that's trying to figure out what should I do for this individual, that's starting to shape up quite rapidly right now, and you are going to see more and more of that. So why just leave that in the hands of commerce? Why not use it for the benefit of logistics as well, to A, give better experience, but B, also try and get to more efficiency in how you execute, right? A single box versus multiple boxes, capacity planning within your peak season. Not everything needs to be promised in 2 days. So on 5 days of the year, I have 300% throughput, and the remaining days I'm operating at 65%. You know what I'm saying? So how can I actually shape that? And that's where keeping an eye on your own data and also looking at what's happening in the industry is really important, and also what's happening within your company, because I can promise you, if you talk to your or logistics folks, if you are talking to your content team or your digital team or your commerce team, you're going to find out they are already looking at different aspects of this. So the question is, how does logistics actually stay at the table at the right time rather than just getting data chucked on the other side? Because if you don't, what has happened in the past is going to happen again.
Great points, gentlemen. To wrap up our conversation, let's play a quick game of this or that. So I'll ask you 3 funny questions, but they are topic related. So after we go through the funny questions, we'll talk about the topic related ones. Nanad, if you could travel to any point in history, would you choose to witness the construction of the Great Wall of China or the pyramids?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I'm a history buff as well, so I kind of know like the first pieces of Great Wall of China coming out, Qin Dynasty, right? Like and all the things that went down at that point as well. I think you know what? Just because of that reason, I would pick the Great Wall of China. It also gives you a very long period of history. Of course, the pyramids are even longer period of history, because which pyramid, right? Like in if you were to look at the old empire or the new empire, right? It all differs. So, but I'll still go with the Great Wall of China. I think it's a absolute marvel of empire building, civilization building, and something that continued on for a very long time. So I want to see sustainability in civilizations as well. So definitely Great Wall of China.
Justin?
I not to be contrarian here, but I've got to go with the pyramids because I can see how moving the blocks in the Great Wall of China, how setting the foundation, I could see how that would work, and it's something that I think without expert knowledge we could attempt to do today. Okay.
Aliens, man, aliens. That's who did
But
it.
yeah,
Come on.
but that's the thing. How exactly? What were the simple, just common sense ways that the early Egyptians actually moved those large pieces of stone, raised them, and set them in place? Is it as just the sand ramp that we see? What is it? And because that seems to be like such a big mystery where so many people can't actually fit it into their head as to how we could use simple physics tricks to be efficient at that. I would love to see what portions of physics they used in order to make that happen.
The Navy did release that aerial footage, and the aerial or the unidentified aerial phenomena was in the shape of a triangle.
Which amazingly, the next generation air dominance, or NGAD, is probably going to be triangular shaped.
Exactly.
But,
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so, would you rather have oh my gosh, the marketing team kills me. Would you rather have a pet sloth that meticulously folds your clothes but takes hours to finish a single load, or a hyperactive capuchin monkey that folds laundry at lightning speed but leaves everything slightly wrinkled and mismatched?
Ooh, I have to go with the pet sloth without a question. I like it extremely well folded. Now the question is, would you rather, right? Like, so I would rather. The unfortunate reality is I'm the one that folds, and I'm the chipmunk because ain't nobody got time for that. So
Nobody got time for that. All right, Justin, your turn.
I'm going with the sloth because, well, let's face it, I only wear a few pieces of clothes every day, right? It can take all the time it needs to make it perfect. And quite frankly, I still can't. I still fold my clothes almost like we did in boot camp. So, yeah.
Gosh, you guys kill me. Okay. I don't think my allergy pill has kicked in yet. If you could teleport any object instantly, would you choose to teleport your dirty dishes straight to the dishwasher, or your travel luggage directly to your hotel room?
I travel enough, but I travel with a lot of stuff and a lot of electronics and a lot of gadgets. I need that stuff close to me. I gotta go with the dirty dishes. It's just even though I travel so much, I would rather keep that bag with me all the time. There's a lot of stuff in there that I need, and I never know when I need. So,
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to be contrarian here. I would actually bring more stuff if I didn't have to lug it around. So
true.
if I could, walk to the airport and it just disappears and appears in my room when I get there, yeah, no brainer. I'm done. I'll just keep my backpack.
I mean,
Uh,
Justin, if that was the case, why even walk it to
Oh, there
to
we
the
go. It
airport
just disappears
from
from
home?
my room after I packed it.
Yeah,
That's even
that's it.
better.
Home to hotel, hotel to home. Yeah, life is good. I mean, if I had that, I would rather also teleport myself and skip all of that in between. But yeah,
But now we start to get into the problems of is
am
it
I
really
still the same
you?
man? Yes. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I watch enough Star Trek. If
Yeah.
Okay, for historical logistics challenges, would you rather tackle the logistical nightmare of supplying an army across a vast empire like the Roman Republic, or the complex task of coordinating trade routes across the Silk Road during the Tang Dynasty?
I think the logistical nightmare of supplying an army across the vast empire of like at the peak of Roman Republic. I mean, that's got to be one challenge and a half without a question. I mean, I get the Tang Dynasty and the Silk Road and like, but it's like a road, right? Like so, and there is, people kind of, civilization kind of grew along the way to be able to support these channels. But moving your army, I mean, even like forget about like Roman army. If you look at the just any big army in the world, like U.S. Army, right? Like you look at the logistical challenges of moving things around and what it takes to actually make it happen. I mean, that's logistically, I'll say the Roman Republic.
The U.S. military isn't so much a military as it's a logistics arms with good protection.
Yeah.
It really is. I don't know. They both have some pretty difficult challenges. I lean towards the Roman one because it feels smaller to me because, well, Asia's huge. And though I know the Romans did get into the Middle East and things of that nature, I also feel that you have that opportunity to, there's a word for it when you take supplies from where you are, but you do have that ability to self-supply in some locations. So I think I'd have to go with the Roman army logistics, just because I'm also assuming here that I don't have to, like a good officer, like a good leader, I'm going to have other people with me that already know what they're doing, and I just have to pick the right answer in the end.
Yeah.
All right, when it comes to future innovations, would you invest in developing self-driving delivery trucks that navigate city streets, or focus on creating a network of autonomous underwater drones for streamlined ocean deliveries? Huh.
Self-driving trucks that navigate city streets. I mean, that's already happening, Jerry.
Amazon
Like that's
did a good job of that.
yeah, like that's here. I've yet to see anyone actually work on network of autonomous underwater drones for streamlined ocean deliveries. I mean, and those shipping containers actually produce a lot of carbon footprint, right? I would love to see a technology that solves for that as a particular challenge under the ocean. Have pneumatic tubes that are just shipping pallets. Would love it, but yeah, so I'm gonna choose that if I was to see it because the other one, that's already happening. I mean, that's self-driving, EV-powered trucks. They are here. I think the problem is regulations.
Mm. Well, actually, I'm going to go. I'm going to go a step further and say, when was the steam locomotive invented? We've had self-driving vehicles for a very long time. We've just chosen to get away from them. But that being said, when we look at number one, when you look at the difficulty of moving things across an ocean, it is significantly more efficient to move it on top of the ocean than it is to go completely into the ocean. So I don't like the idea of underwater drones doing this. Underwater drones are going to have more draft. They're going to do more ecological damage, especially as they get closer to a port. And they can, oddly enough, disrupt biomats from the bottom rather than from the top, which would be pushed out of the way. So I would go with making trucks more trains than making ocean freight worse.
Well, in the world of niche logistics, would you take on the challenge of managing the complex cold chain transportation for temperature-sensitive pharmaceuticals, or organize the intricate logistics of delivering delicate artwork across international borders?
I'm gonna go with the temperature sensitive pharmaceutical. It just seems like there is not a lot of mafia involved in there, because the other one seems like there's a good chance of getting in trouble with a few people, because that what is it called, the logistics of delivering delicate artwork across international borders. That sounds very much like something that would happen in a Bond movie, and the villain's actually in control of that. So yeah, I must stay away from that one.
You know, it's interesting because when you look at both of those, they do offer different challenges. I think we know how to ship stuff without breaking it. And I also think we know how to ship stuff and understand what its temperature is. The question for both of them comes down to cost and efficiency, right? Because we know we can slap a cell phone, a dedicated, cell phone-like device right onto a cold chain item and know not only where it's been, what its rate of temperature change has been, what its current temperature is right now, where it sits latitudinally, and altitude-wise, right? And we can do the same thing. We can protect a piece of artwork with the appropriate framework and things of that nature. So I think really what it comes down to is do you want to find a way to reduce the cost of cold chain such that you can apply it to more cold chain items? Or, as Nod said, do we really want to deal with the intrigue of theft and all the other things that goes along with the subjective world of art?
Yeah.
So I would go with cold chain as well, because I think it saves lives, but that's just me.
Yeah.
That was one of the benefits of working for UPS for nearly 15 years, was being able to see supply chain solutions in action with the cold chain and pharmaceuticals. They do a really good job of with that. Okay, before we say goodbye, let's hear some final thoughts from our experts. Nanad and Justin, what do you want to leave our listeners with today?
Go ahead, Nod.
Again, we spoke a lot about the promise. What I will leave everyone with is, if you have the time, do a little bit of research on composable commerce, or the MACH architecture. And commerce has successfully done this. Logistics has not yet. And that is talking about how do different systems talk in the right way to make good things happen. And I think in logistics, we are going to see a wave of composable, and we are going to see a wave of MACH, which is microservices, API first, cloud native, headless commerce, right? Or headless logistics in this particular case. And you are going to start understanding how to go about achieving this. So if I'm going to leave you with something, just do a little bit of Google research on these particular subjects, and it ties right back into the promise engine, and it will tell you how to inform yourself to become better, smarter at the new wave of logistics that's to be expected.
Outstanding. I'm going to do that. Justin?
I'm going to go with the personnel end of it. Remember, whether you're in digital marketing, whether you have a C title, or whether you're brand new to a company, you're all on the same team, right? There may be sub teams, maybe offense, defense, special teams, things of that nature. But the reality is, at the end of the day, you need to remember that the more you communicate with your teammates, regardless of what sub team they're on, the more likely you are to succeed at that game.
Well, thank you both for joining me today, and thank you everyone for listening to this exciting exploration of logistics and the promise economy. I hope the conversation sparked your curiosity and provided valuable takeaways. A special thanks to Nanad and Justin for sharing their expertise. If you have any lingering questions for Nanad and Justin, please let us know, and don't hesitate to reach out. Don't hesitate to share your thoughts and your tips and your ideas on what you want to hear about next. But until then, happy shipping, happy sipping, and cheers.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us on ProShip ParcelCast Unwined. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a review. We appreciate your thoughts. Looking for even more strategies and solutions to navigate the shipping landscape? Head over to our website at ProShipInc.com. We're not just another software company. We're dedicated to becoming the perfect fit for your unique needs, helping you ship smarter, not harder. Cheers, and see you next time.